Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. Here with Benji, as always, for the recap of Stage 8 of the Vuelta a España. Another sprint stage, the fourth in this Vuelta first week. It's a Saturday. A little bit surprising the way they've arranged it. I think maybe the organisers would have preferred to reverse the action yesterday with today's stage. Nonetheless, today's stage was 174 k's long. There was a couple of short climbs in the middle. They were of no moment, and it was all about the finish. There's a right-hand sweeping bend, no need to brake or anything like that, in the last 200 meters. So you don't want to be first wheel through there, but you want to be jumping pretty sharpish out of that corner. Similar, remind me a lot of the corner where Sagan beat Gaviria in the Giro, maybe a little bit longer from the corner than that. But before we get into Benji's breakaway machinations with Pro Conti Spanish riders, I'll mention our show partner, Le Col. As I said, they produce performance cycling apparel produced at the base of Monte Grappa in Italy, and they've got a sale on at the moment for which the LR Vuelta 20, LR Vuelta 20, all caps, discount code applies to. So there's discount, you apply the 20% discount code and you get another 20% off. So there's some pretty handy deals to be had at the moment. So thanks to Le Col for supporting the podcast. Now onto Benji's Basque riders up front. Or some of them were Basque.
Yeah, Okamica and the breakaway, Bagues and Ituria. And that breakaway, well, got a bit of a gap of 2 minutes, 3 minutes like usual. We had the usual suspects in the peloton, the sprinting teams willing to set up one rider at the front to keep the tempo going for that initial part of the stage. During the stage itself, pretty boring. I ended up doing something else, and I turned back with about 40k to go, because I knew there was a corner coming somewhere where echelons could happen, and I was curious whether it would happen. And with 38 kilometers to go, that's where action started happening, because Astana moved to the front with Freile, and Freile started hitting it after a 90 degrees right corner straight into a, open section when it comes to wind. And crosswinds were possible, but the wind was just not very strong. But we had some stuff happening, and once again, every single echelon section in this entire Vuelta so far, which team is at the back of the group? EF Education first. Who is in the last echelon? EF Education first. Now, the split-ups were pretty chaotic for like 20 seconds. I don't think it was that much longer, right?
No, I don't think so. I wasn't too fast, because you see when there's a second section where they came out of a town again, and then the second time after there'd already been a split, and I think a team on the right, Astana or someone, they start sprinting like, okay, this is going to be a crosswind section. And then you see the rider on front looking around, actually, which side of the road do I go on to for the best shelter from the wind? And if you're having to do that, that means the wind isn't strong enough. So Ineos are on the left side, I'm doing their own train. What I want to ask you, Benji, is mountain stage tomorrow, 13K, 7.5%, pure mountaintop finish, breakaway possible with Roglic allergic to the red jersey at the moment. Why are Alpecin having Jay Vine flog himself on the front today? Is it something they just have to do to set up Philipsen? Did they really need to keep the break? They kept it tight, like at 1 minute, 1:30. He's now going to be going against Padun, who took a rest day yesterday and then nowhere to be seen today. And in the Dauphiné, I remember Padun was asked he had to pull on the front for Colbrelli, and he couldn't or wouldn't pull very strong. I'm just saying, is that a criticism worthy of criticism? Is just inevitability, or do you think it doesn't matter for Vine's chances tomorrow anyway?
I think when it comes to this Vuelta, Philipsen is their main candidate to get stage wins, and I think an opportunity of Vine being in the breakaway to compete for a stage might not be worth having him not pace there. But then again, it's only a three-rider breakaway of riders from Spanish wildcard teams. So that's the counter argument to that. But if they don't put somebody at the front, then the Koenig could say, well, you're not even bothered to put somebody at the front. And there could be a bit of a quarrel there. So I won't see it as criticism, really, because I would expect somebody at Alpecin to do that work. And I'm not surprised that Vine has to do it, because he's still in his way up and he still has to prove himself during this Grand Tour, despite his opportunity in the breakaway yesterday being a grandiose adventure, because he was in the break until that second group got until Storer and Sivakov had their moment, and he was in the second group there. So still a great stage by him, and I think that slowly but surely his reputation in that is going to get better and better, and at a certain point Alpecin must realize that he can give them something in breakaway stages, and I'm I'm expecting that moment to happen. I don't know when, but I'm not necessarily going to blame them to use him for a potential stage win of Philipsen, a rider who has already won 2 stages in this Grand Tour.
And De Koning were doing the same thing with James Knox as well, who'd probably be trying to get into similar breaks as well. They're not, everyone's got to chip in, I guess, and they did a good job of it. I think if you're a World Tour team and Vine on 100k just seems like a no-brainer to me. But that's more for off-season discussions later. The break got caught by the echelon action. Chicone got brought back. Benji's man JP Lopez actually is being a good domestique so far for Trek Segafredo. And so we now have the nervous run into the finish. Or like all the previous stages, sprint stages, the break is caught really late. And so the break is called very early, 30Ks to go. And it's a bit nervous. I was hoping, thank God, there were no crashes today in the run-in. Jumbo-Visma weren't at the front. That Jumbo in the run-in, Benji, I think I actually want to commend them on what they're now deciding to do. I think if you can't stay at the front, like Egan Bernal, slap bang, single file, no one around you, fourth wheel behind Dylan Van Baarle safe. If you can't do that, I think it is more dangerous to try and force your way from 30th wheel in the gutter, trying to get up there yourself. That's how he had the incident with Colbrelli. I think what I saw, I mean, I don't know why he's sitting in front of his teammates, but to me it seems like he's sitting now almost in a Yates position with 8Ks to go and leaving a fair big gap. He's still getting a big draft effect on this flat, and he's sort of staying out of the mix entirely at the back. I still think that is better. If his team's not good enough to keep him at the front, then trying to move up and bumping shoulders.
I get that point, but being in that situation, being in that position, just behind the likes of a Bora train who's trying to move up on the left side to get with Alpecin, for example, in the lead up of a sprint, well, it showed today that there was a certain moment where a Bora rider was getting pinched by a rider on the left side, and that caused him to move right, and Roglic had to evade, otherwise he would have crashed there. And perhaps, that gap he had on that rider was the reason that he was able to stay upright, but it's still a position in the peloton where stuff can happen and crashes regularly happen in that place. It's indeed a lottery, and I think that's why Ineos wants that front place. But like you said, Jumbo is not able to give that to Roglic right now in the same way that Ineos can't perform that with Van Baarle, keeping Bernal at the front of the peloton. So yeah, it's a lottery, but I get what you mean, and I don't actually know what to say about it.
Well, they're just getting lucky so far. I mean, he avoided the big crash on the other stage, the Bardet crash. So there's been close moments. And yeah, it's like they're playing Russian roulette a little bit. But I still think it's better than trying to force something yourself. I think you just got to accept where you are at that point. But anyway, something to watch. The sprint, obviously going to be a sprint. We have the favourites being Jakobsen and Philipsen. I think now it's clearly a cut above Demar from my perspective. I think Benji and I went opposing picks last night, so neither of us, so the pod as itself could be right. Particularly when I'm wrong. It's the pod.
We always do that.
The pod is correct when I'm wrong.
When I'm wrong as well.
De Koning presented very early. I've been a bit critical of their lead out so far. 5Ks to go. They come to the front. I'm like, 5Ks with 3 men plus Fabio. A bit early. It was. They then got swarmed. Genietz, Luxembourg national champ, comes over the front, saves them a little bit for FDJ. And FDJ were looking good. 2 men plus Demar, a Guarnieri last man who's looking in good shape, going under the Flamme Rouge. De Koning then they've been left on the front now with, I think, Van Leber, then Seneschal. Fabio is deep, really out of position, deep in the peloton. You were watching Alpecin, Benji. Like, what happened with their lead out today? Is it a matter of them just getting pinched on the left and they couldn't do their patented move up late with 3 men sort of move?
Yeah, usually that's something you see De Koning do in certain stages where they move up late and they're still in the middle with like 3K to go. But today Alpecin was caught out on the left side of the road, and they got extra caught out when Demar had his 5-man train move up on the right side of the road and move the peloton towards the left side of the road. And that caused Demar to be at the front with his 5-man train. On the left side of that, you've got the De Koning train, and just behind that, you've got the train with Alpecin. And there's obviously Bora trying to get in there as well with 3-4 riders. So it's going to be hard for Alpecin to move up unless the gap opens up on the left side of the road and they can move up. And that happened at a certain point. At a certain point, the gap went open and the peloton moved a bit to the right side of the road, and one of the Alpecin riders was able to pull through. But then an Israel rider was ahead of the other Alpecin rider, or ahead of Philipsen himself, actually. And that caused the second Alpecin rider to be like, okay, I can't make this move because this Israel rider is blocking Philipsen. This is not a great idea. And he waited, and the peloton went to the left again. Alpecin rider was at the front. He was like, okay, I've lost my train. That's not ideal. And Philipsen had to do another move. He had to have Krieger guide him to the opposite side of the road. Like, I don't know how they do this. Like, there's an entire peloton right there, and they were able to traverse it horizontally across the road and move up on the other side of the road through people. And that's what Alpecin tried to do right here. And, well, did it work or did it not?
Like it sort of did. It did work. Like they made the best of a bad situation. As Benji said, almost the worst thing happened where your train is disrupted because a hole opens up and then it's shut on you halfway through. Damar, I thought, was in the best posse. K to go, 2 men plus Guarnieri and De Koning are leading them out. Milano was in a really good spot too. Matthews is having Mezgets lead him out. Mayus has got a lead out as well in the middle. So everyone, in my view, is in a better position than Jakobsen. And then Philipsen is in an even more dire position with about a kilometre to go. And really, there's no excuse for Damar and Milano, frankly. Damar loses the wheel of his lead-out man a little bit on the left-hand side of the barriers, coming into about 500 metres to go. And it's Florian Sénéchal who takes over a long pull. He did a really good second-last man job in Paris-Nice Stage 5, which I always refer to. But I'm looking front on image, and then Bert van Leeuwenhoek is looking around, where's Fabio? Fabio comes off his wheel. He's moved over to Philipsen's wheel, who's being brought up by Krieger, as Benji said. And so there's no real connection between Fabio or Sénéchal. I mean, Sénéchal's doing a good job if Fabio was third wheel. He wasn't. Fabio then slips back in, and we now have, with 500 metres to go, if my eyes serve me correctly, Sénéchal, Guarnieri, Molano, Mayus, Matthews, Minali, Philipsen, Jakobsen, Dainese, Damar. That's how far back Damar was off Guarnieri's wheel, so not ideal for him at all. And then through this right-hand bend, Guarnieri takes over from Sénéchal. It's almost like they're working on the same team, doing a perfect lead-out for Jakobsen, who wasn't in third wheel. And then Milano just can't come out of the wheel. He doesn't launch early, and Jakobsen at 180 sprints early through the middle. He had a gap. He's like, I'm going to not get boxed in when maybe Milano comes out of the wheel and swings across, goes early. Dainese puts Philipsen off Jakobsen's wheel, and Jakobsen wins pretty comfortably, to be honest, by 3/4 of a bike length. I think he got, well, he literally did get the jump. I don't think so, Benji. He got the jump on Philipsen, who I think was trying to get led out by Minali or Matthews and then switched off too late. But then what's your view? Do you think, even if he was in Jakobsen's wheel, 170 metres, pure sprint, do you think Philipsen can even beat Jakobsen in that situation?
I don't think so. I think Jakobsen is the better sprinter compared to Philipsen. I think we've now had 4 sprints in which Jakobsen has been in a competitive position. I think today was the most competitive position he was in pre-sprint compared to all the ones he's had before. And it wasn't even that great. It was 6th or 7th position in the last corner. So this is not an ideal position to start your sprint in, neither was Philipsen. But in the previous ones, he was in the one he won, he had to move into the inner corner as well to try and move up just very, very late, just before the sprint. And that allowed him to take that stage. But the other 2, he was not in a position at all to make it happen and still had a decent result at the end of the stage. So I feel like Jakobsen is the better sprinter of the 2. Philipsen, on the opposite end, today had to do a lot of trouble to move to the front, but that was the same as Jakobsen, to be honest. It's just the fact that perhaps Philipsen had to do more in the wind on the right side of the peloton to move up together with Krieger, but I think Jakobsen had to mingle himself left and right as well to move up in the last portion of the race, because he was not on the wheel of Sénéchal, like you mentioned. So, yeah, I've got the feeling that, in general, I see Jakobsen as the better sprinter compared to Philipsen, and Alpecin has the better lead out. But today, that lead out was not really doing the perfect thing, or was caught out at a certain point, and they couldn't save it properly. Well, they saved it relatively, but not amazingly. That sentence made no sense. Go ahead, sorry.
Dainese is looking, I don't know. Do you think he's a guy, Benji, who's getting these top three results off the back of being in the right wheels, following those wheels, but he's never going to be able to actually come out of the wheel and win? That's my view. I think he's in the right wheels, and then he's using that draft, timing, etc. But I don't think he's going to be able to. Well, he literally didn't, right? Philipsen let him out the other day for like 150 meters and he couldn't come out of the wheel. But I should do the top 10 for completeness. Jakobsen first, Dainese second, Philipsen, then Meus Itamar Einhorn for Israel Startup Nation. Chimolai abandoned today. I don't know why. I hope he's okay. I think a lot of us were somewhat surprised, given the sprint field here, that he wasn't their chosen sprinter, but sometimes he does need a bit of a climb. Chimolai, Demar 6th, Matthews 7th, Martin Lass 8th, Alagat 9th, and Aberasturi 10th. So, you know my honest view, Benji? I think Martin Lass is a bit better than Jordi Meus. I think he could get top threes if they let him have one.
I don't know.
You haven't watched Jordi Meus v Martin Lass, hasn't been keeping up at night. Who's the better third tier sprinter?
In all honest opinion, I couldn't care less because I forgot Meus was here due to his crash in the early stages. And then suddenly they were doing lead out today, and I was like, oh yeah, Meus is here. They might be doing it for him or Lass. Let's see who they are going for. And it seems like they eventually ended up doing it for Meus. I'm glad that they're doing it for Meus because Lass is older. And I think that I prefer it if an older person is doing a lead out for a younger person when their level in sprinting is roughly the same, because Meus has more potential on paper.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
What happened to Milano, by the way?
I don't know. We're seeing reports on Twitter, I think, that Milano was relegated in this sprint, and which is weird because we're the relegation police, so we hadn't made a verdict yet about anything. And I can't even see anything bad. He's in Guarnieri's wheel,
yeah,
and he couldn't do anything. Bad sprint from him, but he doesn't rub shoulders with anyone. I don't see him even I was like, oh, did he swing out of Guarnieri's wheel trying to follow Philipsen and chop someone? I can't really see that, but there's no overhead. We've not had much overhead shots. I really can't see anything he's done. Maybe it must be for something before the last kilometer, Benji.
I rewatched the entire 1.5 last kilometers while you were ranting on about who won the stage, so didn't listen at all. But Milano, I don't see anything odd happen at all. He was in the wheel of his lead out from 1.5 to 1K to go, and then eventually he had to worm his way through, but on a pretty normal manner, still in the wheel of his lead out. And in the last portion, he just moves to the left side of the road, doesn't really pinch anyone, and goes on to that train in which Jakobsen is a few wheels deeper. So I don't see it. I genuinely cannot tell what happened. By the way, we forgot to talk about Jetsebol's attack.
I actually quite liked it. I don't mind the last 1,500 meter suicide attack because it looks good. I was like, oh,
wildcard team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. When it's at 15 Ks, I'm like, nah, that's a waste of time. But last 1,500 meters, who knows? Probably still won't work, and it definitely didn't. But yeah, that's another sprint stage 2-2 for Jakobsen against Philipsen. 4 sprints so far. Tomorrow we have a mountain stage on the Sunday, thankfully. Which is up to, I think it's called Verifique, 190 kilometers long, quite long. Again, we always say this, the breakaway, I think bring a buddy. If you're a climber, you want to bring a rouleur friend because it's false flat, downhill, then rolling uphill, 10.6 Ks at 3.6%. The first climb, that's nothing too terrifying or good for the climbers. Then the middle climb is 30 kilometers long. 30 kilometers long at 4.3%, but it has a descent in it. There's steeper. There's a 6K 9% section where you need to be a really good climber. Descent, then a 7K 4% climb, which is also, all these climbs are really irregular. Then a descent, and it's the final climb, which is quite regular. Verifique, 13Ks at 7.2%. Maybe a little bit steeper in sections. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, Benji. I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. I think Valverde crashing out's really thrown me. I think I said Padun from the breakaway, and I still kind of like that.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that a team will control unless we see the likes of Movistar doing something, but with a rider less than normal, I think that's less and less likely. Now, when it comes to Bahrain, Odin was not good on stage 7. First climb, he was gone. Same with Tratnik. So it's really hard to think about this stage and expect something crazy to happen. It's also that Alto de Castro thingy just before the final climb doesn't feel like it's a kind of climb where you can trust going for an attack the climb before. Like, it's still too far, it feels to me, for a leader to try something that far out. And when it comes to Ineos, I've kind of got the feeling that they're going to take this Alto de Villafrica on as a team from the bottom, just because it's one of the relatively longer climbs compared to the ones we have in this Vuelta, and they want to try it like that. I'm not too tactically expecting something crazy on this one, I'm afraid, and I do expect the breakaway to have a chance of winning the stage. And when it comes to the winner, I haven't thought about this at all, and this is a mistake. Like, where has Guillaume Martin been recently?
I don't know. I don't have the answers to the Guillaume Martin questions. I think Bardet, if he stops going for KOM points and certainly win this stage, GSM can get everybody in the break. So why not try with him? This was a stage I was pumping up again for Bahrain to mount a raid because of that long, 6K, 9% section with 60Ks to go and then a descent and a false flat climb. But then Tratnik's not in form. And we keep hearing from Bahrain that it's still all about Landa, which, I'm sorry, it can't all be about Landa at this point. They have to reassess, in my view, and focus on, okay, we have to use Haig as a second attacking option. Otherwise, yesterday was pointless. And frankly, he could be in better shape than Landa in the later stages and will do a better final TT. We have Padun for breakaways. Gino Mader, I think, is still relatively close. Can he, Gino Mader can win tomorrow's stage, no problem. So you have to let him go on the break. Let me just check where he's on GC. He's at 252. I really hope
Carapaz area in GC, it's around Carapaz, right? 248?
I hope those two have a conversation this evening, and maybe JP Lopez, honestly, Benji. Go and try something on that climb and see, can Roglic, he can't close everybody. Now Valverde's gone. He only had to close Mal and then stage done yesterday. Do you think there's any possibility, or if you were a DS, would you be telling any of these riders, try something on that first climb, particularly if we see Bowman or Ooman not there?
It's a hard one on this stage. You would?
If you got a rider up ahead. Get Verona up ahead again if you can.
Yeah. I think that Movistar won't risk it on this stage. I could be completely wrong on that, but I just think they won't risk it. And I can't blame them because they're still in a very good position in GC compared to a lot of other people that will need to attack to try and move up in GC. And I don't think those riders are good enough to make that move either.
I think Landa and Carapaz / Bernal will continue to bleed time to Roglic if they just play this straight. Unless I don't see Roglic cracking on a 13K 7% climb. This is a bread and butter finish in the first week. I would really try second options on this stage and really put Jumbo-Visma, try and put them under pressure again. We maybe denied seeing what could have happened yesterday because of the Valverde crash. So I would try with Gino, Carapaz, maybe Haig's too close now or whatever, or even Landa himself. He probably
Thing is, the stage doesn't start off with a climb and so forth. So
I know.
It has an opportunity that just a group of rouleurs gets away on this one. Like we saw in the Tour de France, when there's another climb at the start, a group of rouleurs tends to get away because the parkour is flat and those have a larger chance of getting away. So it is possible that happens. Now, who lost time today? We've got a few riders from Lotto Soudal that lost time, 3 minutes. Kroon, Holmes, Van Hoeke, and Monique. Those are 4 riders that could be in the breakaway tomorrow. We've got likes of Storger once again losing 3 minutes today. Berwick losing 3 minutes today. Piccoli. Those are 2 options as well to go in a breakaway on a stage like this. I don't know what their form is like because I haven't seen too much from them so far this race. But Romain Bardet lost 4 minutes today. I don't think he crashed. So perhaps, I don't know. Well, didn't crash today, I mean. Obviously, he crashed a few days ago. But is that due to the effect of the crash, or is he now saving time to try and go in an attack in the coming days? Simon Carr lost 6 minutes today.
He crashed, I
Same
think.
question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think he crashed.
Okay. That's unfortunate because he was looking really good in GC a few days ago. But I can't tell you who is going to win, but I'm going to go YOLO and say Mikel Biscara because I want this guy to win a fucking stage in this Grand Tour.
I hope it's a big break with some climbers. I'd love to see if it's Gino Mater, that guy's that close on GC, but maybe it's guys like Schultz, Hamilton, Berwick, Vine. Vine will certainly be trying to get
Van
into the break.
Zevenand? How is he in GC these days?
I don't know.
Because I genuinely don't know, but I
think
think
he
he's
lost
dropped,
25
right?
minutes. Yeah.
Oh, that guy should try and go in breakaways from this point onwards.
For sure. Tarame will be trying to get in the break as well. But that's all from us on the Vuelta Stage 8 and Stage 9 preview tomorrow. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to support the podcast, we saw someone trying to write LRCP on the road today. You can like the video if you're watching on YouTube or on podcast players. Give us a review. If it's 5 stars and it's abusive and funny, I'll probably read it out, some of the best ones, because a lot of them do make me chuckle. But yeah, maybe that's not what people want to write. Maybe they want to be nice to us. I don't know, Benji. People want to be nice to you, less so to me. But we're rambling here. That's all from us today. See you tomorrow. Ciao.